Welcome to my home in Durban, South Africa. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this panel presentation. I want to jump straight into it and first talk about the relevance of the visual world to a blind person. We seldom realize that blind persons need also to understand what the visual world is all about. The flawed thinking is that if you can't see, then you don't need to know. Similarly with deaf persons, if you cannot hear, then we don't need to communicate sound to you, but communicate in other forms. The visual world is essential for our effective functioning. We need to understand space, spatial dimensions, shape, color, size, foreground, background, movement, stationary. All this information creates images in our heads that helps us to contextualize our world. This information supports our creativity, our integration, our mainstreaming. So visual information, I believe, is essential for persons with visual disabilities. Now, if you think about tourism is basically the indulgence of the senses. New sights, new sounds, new tastes as we experience new lands, new cultures, new food, new animals, new plants. So how do we convey this visual world to a blind person? Joel has already spoken about the skill of audio description that makes the visual verbal and the verbal visual. I want to say that skilled audio description transforms the tourism experience for visually impaired persons. If you combine audio description with other forms of information, other methods, tactile, getting involved directly in the action, tracing, this transcends the visually impaired tourist's experience to yet another level. So let me explain what I mean in terms of South African examples. First, let me dispel a myth. We would have all experienced audio information in different forms at museums, galleries, tourism destinations, entertainment places, where you would either get a real-time guided tour by a person, or you would get an audio recorded tour. But audio information doesn't necessarily mean it's audio described information. So often I find that this type of information focuses on background and what the artifact or experience is about, but rarely tells you what you've seen. I often find myself asking the question, so what does it look like? So let's get back to the point I was making. If we combined tracing with skilled audio description, a little while back, I was training game rangers at a safari park on how to create accessible tours for blind persons. I combined it with the art of tracing, taking your fingers, guiding your fingers in the air across the outline of a landscape, following the movement of distant animals, following the outline of trees, the skyline of a city. Tracing combined with audio description just brings alive the experience. It begins to give you a three-dimensional image and contextualizes your world around you. Similarly, tactile information. I had the rare privilege to stumble across a farmer who had a vast collection of taxidermic animals, stuffed wildlife. I felt in whole a leopard, a rhino, a giraffe, feeling the fur, the hair, the skin, the horns, the hooves, combined with quality audio description, just transcended my entire experience. It made it so real. Seeing those creatures in my mind, using my imagination, just made me realize majesty of creation and nature. Similarly, when I was being described a tribal dance before my eyes, I was able to follow from the words. But when I was drawn into the experience of dancing alongside, rhythmically feeling the movements in my own body, I realized what the total dance was all about. So, in short, audio description just unlocks the visual world to the visually impaired tourist. Combine it with other forms of communication, tactile, tracing, direct action. It just transcends the experience. So it's critical then for tourism planners, tourism itinerary designers, tour operators, tour guides, to learn of all these various methods by which to capture and excite the visually impaired tourism market. In short, I want to say that when it came to audio description in the movie industry and in broadcasting, there were legal prescripts in place with regard to compliance with the percentage. But in reality, audio description exceeded all those prescribed percentages because it was consumer driven. Similarly, in the world of tourism, we will find that the tourism market must not rely on a human rights approach. Instead, consumer demand is what's going to grow it, because already it is a growing silent market to which the tourism industry needs to rapidly awaken. Thank you very much.